Good. I had to re-add. Thanks so much, Fela. But yeah, so I had to re-add the bots because they had changed things. Okay. And I'm like representing full swag today.
Yeah.
The necklace actually says Empire Builder as well. And it's like engraved and it's super pretty and it's kind of like my favorite thing right now. So there, I'm ready for
So
this workshop.
these are the samples you ordered the other day, right?
Yeah. The store
Really
is
cool.
filling out pretty rapidly and new stuff is being added all the time. It's really fun. And yeah, people are like loving it. So this is actually the bullet journal as well. I haven't uncellophaned it, so it's a little shiny, but yeah.
Nice.
So that's the update over here. What's the update in Etienne's world?
Um, I'm expected to sign the next contract by the end of this week.
Oh,
That's
good.
cool.
That's very exciting. Oh, I can't wait to hear more about it.
Mhm.
So, Etienne and I know each other from all kinds of different scenarios. We actually have several like ways we've met and then met again. But the reason that I invited you here today to chat about tasking is because a couple of months ago you were on a warpath to really like change how tasking was working because for you were struggling with tasking yourself. And I've also had my own struggles with tasking. So I think let's just start with like commiserating around that and talking about like how tasking has been frustrating and hard. So Etienne, do you want to talk about like what was happening for you when you were thinking like something's got to change? Like what was the struggle point?
Sure. Actually, it goes back years ago, probably 3 to 4 years ago. I was like living in my 14 square meters apartment in Paris, and yeah, I had suddenly I started working, started having a thing going on in my life, and I am not a very uh, organized person in my head, so I needed to have things down somehow. So yeah, otherwise I would just run around and not know what to do all day. So yeah, and then started like a slow road to how to organize things, which went from just task lists to bullet journaling, and then to exploration, because this is at that point that I started thinking about implementing my own solution.
Yeah, that's actually super familiar for me as well, where I used to say I live off of sticky notes.
Mhm.
Just kind of had things everywhere. And I tried digital systems, but for me, what I found, and I think you're the opposite of me, but for me, if it's digital, it's out of sight, out of mind. So I don't think about it. I forget what I've tried to task for myself, and I ultimately lose tasks. And so I struggled for a long time because in order to scale, so you know, like I'm all about scaling businesses, and um, if I'm going to scale, if I'm going to have a team, if I'm going to be delegating to people, like I have to have something digital because I run a remote company. And so I was struggling between the two, and I eventually found a marriage of digital and physical. But I think Etienne, you prefer digital over physical. Is that correct?
No, actually,
Oh no.
no, actually, I agree that having physical things is as an amazing appeal, which is that you cannot ignore it, as you said, like because it's there on your desk, and it's like I see it all the time. I can't close the window. But
Yeah.
yeah, the reason why I am migrated to digital at some point, because I had something in mind where the limit, I had reached the limit of uh, paper. I wanted to move
Mm,
things around and edit things, and this was just not possible with this task list and everything.
mhm.
And I want to come back to what you said, where you said like that you when things are digital, you forget them. I think this sometimes is solved when you start having a process that you trust and that you come back to when it's part of your it's when it becomes a habit to work with whatever tool it is, be it digital or a bullet journal, or if every day, like I'm doing right now, I'm trying something every day at 10 a.m. when I wake up. I do my GTD process step, and I go to my all of my things that are accumulated, and I process them. And because it's automated, then it comes back to your reality.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just taking notes because I'm going to share some of the resources that we
Hmm.
talk about here tonight. But so you mentioned GTD, which is
Getting things done by,
mhm.
I forgot.
um,
Wait a minute.
isn't it David something?
David Allen, maybe?
Yes, yeah. Which I'll, as I said, I'll put the link
David Allen.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll put the link on our bookshelf here in the lounge. But yeah, as you said, that like y David Allen and getting things done works really well because it's a process. It's something that you just take the steps. And for those who are listening who um, have been along for the ride for a while, you know that the second pillar of scaling is systems and processes. And so this is like just coming right in together. Like you have to be able to task your future self confidently, but it's not going to work very well if you don't have the process down. So I think that's also a really important point you just made, that the process helps you trust your system. So are you doing all paper now, or what's your current, what is the system?
So that's an interesting point. Um, I deep dived into this getting things done method system that David Allen suggests, which I think is absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
But it is also extremely extensive, and it has a lot of steps. And I
Yeah.
heard also a lot of people that went through it, tried it out, and then slimmed it down to their actual needs. No, Mitchell, that's what happened
Hmm.
to his. Uh, and what I do currently is I work with my best friend on a weekly basis, sort of as a sprints, kind of. And
Hmm.
so we do kind of a slimmed down version of the getting things done methodology, with this accountability factor that helps keeping things rolling. And
Yeah.
the way, the place where it's stored and interacted with is on a Notion page.
Oh, so okay. Yeah, I think that's also a really important point, is having an accountability buddy, because especially for people who are entrepreneurs, we're our own like there's no boss telling us, hey, you have this deadline, you need to get this done. It's all up to us. And I know that you experienced some of that when you were working on your app, that like there's no one keeping after you but you. Um, and so having an accountability buddy, or having some sort of externalized um, encouragement, uh, yeah, definitely can make a difference. So for me, have adapted. Um, I use Asana. So you said you use Notion, right? I use Asana, um, but I also use a bullet journal, and so that's actually what I'm writing in right now to take notes. Is the bullet journal, and I've created a course all around this because it's not just one system, it's mirroring these systems. And I found that that's actually really important to, like you talked about, Etienne, having the process of how do I bring things into the digital and bring them into the physical so that both systems are working to the best of their ability. And I can confidently task my future self and trust that and know things are going to get done, because ultimately the point of externalizing tasks is so that we don't stay up at night thinking about all the things that we have to get done. If you don't trust your system, you're going to stay up all night thinking about the things that you need to get done. Externalizing tasks also means that you've released brain cells to be the brilliant entrepreneur, creator that you are. So when we're holding it all in our heads, that's capacity being spent just to remember everything. And that can be quite laborious. As you said, when you were first starting to make your own system, right? It felt heavy. It felt like you were carrying all this stuff all the time.
Yeah, David Allen puts it very well at the beginning. I think he describes the goal of the methodology and of this system, just to have, as you said, like a clear mind. That's like the goal, and then you can start building. Then you can start iterating without like running very fast, but in a dark room, and like
Running into walls.
yeah.
So externalizing tasks, having a process so that you trust the externalized system. But then what about prioritization? So, like, I get asked all the time, how do I prioritize tasks? How do I know what I need to be doing right now? Because again, when we transition as entrepreneurs away from working for someone else, that someone else usually was the prioritizer. So now it's up to me to choose. And I know you've lived both worlds, and you've also been given a lot of latitude in your careers where you get to choose every day. So what do you do to prioritize what to do?
So I can't talk so much about prioritizing for your team or for your employees, because I don't have this experience. But for myself as just an individual, or as a founder, or like or as an employee, I think it comes down to actualization. So if we go back to getting things done, I believe it's the reflect step I'm looking at because it's printed on my wall, where basically I tell you, like, once in a while you just go back to whatever your system have, what are your projects, what are your tasks, and you think, okay, is that still what is the updated priority of this? Maybe this thing that I thought was important is not so much anymore, or maybe there's a new deadline that has been added to this, and in the end, what you're going to do in your daily life will depend on a combination of this, like deadlines and effective priorities that you're supposed to keep up to date. But again, that only works if it becomes a habit and a recurring
Right.
thing.
Yeah. So you have to, so we got the system of Notion, Asana, Google Keep, bullet journal, whatever you're using to externalize the tasks on. And then we have the process of, as you said, reviewing it in the morning, or some people like to do it in the evening to like close their day, but it's being reviewed. Um, in bullet journaling, which is what I follow, that's the system that I really like. They call it a daily review. I like that David Allen calls it a reflection, because I think that is a better definition of like what needs to happen. And just as you said, things change. Yeah. For example, I had somebody say to me recently that she would set out for the day to accomplish X, and then Y would happen, and all of a sudden she's over here working on J, right? So things changed, which means that X didn't get done. Without that reflection, we start to lose what needed to happen, and we don't get the chance to change the deadline, right? I think for me as well, when I'm going through things, like in the morning review, like what do I got, what's happening, what's upcoming, um, I look at my deadlines, like either events that are coming up, or like what are my self-imposed deadlines, what's the next milestone, etc. Um, and use that as kind of like the first step into prioritizing. Like whatever's coming up soonest starts to get to have um, the higher importance. Um, and then if it's something that something I really like about bullet journal is that if it's something that keeps getting pushed off the plate, like let's say like it's been weeks and you keep shoving this thing, like I don't wanna, I don't have the time, I don't have the capacity, whatever it is. Maybe it's not actually needed. Maybe we don't need to do it. Maybe you don't want to do it. What do you think? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Does David Allen talk about that? Or do you have a system for like letting things go?
Um, I think it's included in the reflections step, the
Yeah.
letting things go apart. But you talk about how it works with the bullet journal with getting things pushed back, and I remember I've been using a bullet journal for a while before, and one of my favorite things is that it was literally impossible to ignore the past or the things you have, because at, like, let's say the end of the month, you end up like doing a monthly review, looking at
Hmm.
everything you have achieved, what you have not achieved, and then you have to you have to bring back whatever you didn't. And so
Hmm.
if you're going to rewrite the thing on this new month, it really makes you think, do I really need to do this thing? Is that still relevant? And this, yeah, it's just really, really a cool thing of bullet
Yeah.
journaling.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That even if you're not thinking, I don't want to write this, it's probably somewhere in the back of your head. Like you do have to write the thing down again if you're going to keep it. Um, I say in my bullet journal course, so bullet journaling uses like bullets, like bullet lists. The bullet, so the bullet means this is a task. And I say no bullet should go unmodified. So there's all kinds of different symbols that you can use to like cross it out, check it off, change it, show that it's been migrated, that something's been done with it. And so just as Etienne was saying, like if the bullet is unmodified, then that's a red flag. Like this is something that needs to be addressed and either moved forward, delegated, crossed off, but like it can't be sitting there bare. Um, there's another, and I have to think of the name of it. It's the Eisenhower Matrix. I had to think about US presidents. So the Eisenhower Matrix is another method for prioritization. And I think this works well for tests, but also works well for like life. Do you know what I'm talking about, Etienne? Have you heard of this?
I do, I think, and I've seen it. At first, when I first seen it, I was blown away, and I actually have never used it properly. But I think it's really smart. Maybe because I don't have so much people to delegate to, and a big part I think of the Eisenhower matrix is
Hmm.
delegation.
So you think that if you were delegating to others, you would use it more?
I think so.
Huh.
At least I try. It's
Until this.
more.
Okay.
But you want to go
So
through it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's such a simple tool where it is basically a big cross. And
Can we
let me
show
see,
it?
actually. Yeah, I can probably screen share. I blogged about it, so I'll just go ahead and pull up my blog. I can find it, right? Um, Otherwise, I'll just pull it up through Google. Nope. I don't know why I can't pull it up, but that's okay. Oh, don't play a video. Just show me it. Okay, great. All right. Screen share. There. All right, let's see how this works actually. I haven't screen shared before. Voila. So, the four quadrants of the Eisenhower Matrix are basically urgent and important. Um, and so what happens then, I wonder if I can make it any bigger. I don't think so. Um, but so when something is urgent and important, so it's in that first quadrant, it's in the green. That's it's urgent and important, so it means it has to happen now. So basically, there's a deadline, and the deadline is very important. It's going to make a big difference for your company.
Yeah,
The
maybe
Yep.
if I can interject, maybe it's not
Yeah.
necessarily obvious here, but that like it's kind of a XY axis thing where the
Hmm.
x-axis is urgency. So what's on the left
Hmm.
column is urgent, what's on the left right is not, and then the top down y column is what is it again? Important.
Right. Right.
Right. So what would be on the top would be very important. What would be on the bottom would be less,
Not.
a bit less.
Yeah. Yeah. So if it's I have to like try my memory too here. So if it's urgent but not important, they actually say to delegate it. This one I sometimes am not so sure about because to me, I feel like if it's urgent, I guess I confuse urgency and importance myself because it does make sense. If it's urgent but it's not important, somebody else can probably handle it. So that's the orange quadrant. The blue quadrant is where it's important but it's not urgent. So then that's where you schedule it. So you get it on the list, but you delegate it to your future self basically. It's important enough that you should be doing it yourself, but it's not hair on fire right now. Um, and then the fourth one where it's not urgent or it's not important, according to the Eisenhower Matrix, don't do it. Sometimes I feel like, well, it's not urgent or important, but it's something I'd like to do in the future. And so that's where I use the GTD system, the someday maybe list. Etienne, do you have a someday maybe list?
Absolutely have a someday maybe list. And yeah, a lot of things are in this someday maybe list. Maybe I should have multiple someday maybe list. But yeah, so this process of the Eisenhower matrix is, I guess, a part what we would call the clarifying
Mm.
step in the GTD methodology. And okay, let me get this off the wall.
You keep referencing it, so
The,
also.
so this is like just the clarifying method in detail, the clarifying
Mhm.
step. And so basically, there's like six different possibilities, and I guess in the Eisenhower matrix, there's just four. So of course, like this is a simplification, so not everyone goes there. But yeah, here you have actually the do it, delegate, but also reference it for later, incubate it for later, which have slightly different connotation. So
Yeah, I think that
yeah,
like the someday maybe is the incubate, let it sit. And that's what I like actually, because as entrepreneurs, I think the Eisenhower Matrix is maybe good for somebody who's just got a task list from their boss. But with entrepreneurs, we have a lot of ideas, right? And so there are things that we need to incubate on. We need to let it cook and really decide if it's something that we want to take action on. It's not so simple as to say, well, it's not important or urgent, so I'm not going to do it. Maybe this works for a daily review. Maybe I
That being
wouldn't do it
said,
today.
it's also
Yeah.
important to know how to cut, cut trash things, like cut things off, because I feel like in my case in particular, my someday maybe list is getting really out of hand. But yeah, but yeah, we have 1,000 ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
not everything needs to be like trashed. So and not yeah, in the Eisenhower Matrix, it would just disappear systematically, and like
Mm-hmm. Well, so then when do you review your someday maybe list?
is the question when do you review, or are you supposed to review your someday maybe?
Okay,
Um,
how when do you review your someday maybe?
Never.
Okay. When are you
uh,
supposed to review your someday maybe list?
Once every few weeks, I guess, is the
Mm.
recommended time frame. Um, yeah, it's not anything. Usually, if you push it back there, it's that it can wait a little bit. So, if it's something to be done, like in the
Mhm.
next weeks, in the next month, you will probably have it in somewhere closer.
True, yeah. For me, I keep my someday maybe list in my bullet journal, and
Okay.
I am almost done with this bullet journal. Ah. And so that actually creates a natural review process for me because I
Mm.
have to take these few pages. It's basically up to about here. So, like the first 30 pages are things that potentially I would bring into the new bullet journal. Things like people's birthdays, but then also like I flipped through this, I opened to my routines list. Like, is my daily routine still working for me? Um, my victory log, which everybody should have. So that would get renewed. Um, but yeah, the someday maybe list is part of that. And I naturally do go through it and say, okay, what of this do I actually still want to carry with me? And so
I
I've
have
had, you know,
Sorry.
go for it, do it. What you gotta
I
say?
ha- I have a question for you, because
Okay.
I love bullet journaling, and I'm very curious how you incorporate these items of the GTD methodology within it. And there's one aspect of the getting things done methodology, and others also, that I
Mhm.
really like, is the distinction of what you have to do. Sometimes are tasks, and something like very like self-contained, but often it would be projects, and projects would be whatever thing you want to achieve that requires multiple steps. And sometimes it's very simple thing. It can be like, um, I want to write this letter to the tax agency. And so the steps would maybe be like, look up how to do your tax declaration, write the letter, go send it. That will maybe be too much step for some, not enough for others. But yeah, so there's this distinction in projects that have
Mhm.
kind of subtasks within them, and I'm curious to
Yeah.
know, how do you represent them, or how do you manipulate these oh these projects?
So this is my actually I'm okay to show this because this is my project spread. Well, it's not even in focus anyway, but for the bullet journal course. Because doing a whole course, just as you're saying, is a whole lot of steps. And so I do have project spreads in my bullet journal. That is one way that I will hash it out because I need to write it out in order to really think through what the steps are. Um, that's for just isolated projects. I also will use Asana for some of this. I don't like using Asana for multi-stage projects where there's like a task and then subtasks. That doesn't, I don't know, for some reason that my brain doesn't like that. But what I use Asana for that is superior to the bullet journal is for my systems, my business systems. Things like my social media management system. I use the Kanban view, so that's like the columns with the cards that you can move along each column. You just drag and drop them. Um, and I use that to maintain my systems because oftentimes I know what I want to do next, but then I'm moving fast or I'm too busy and I forget. So I move things along the system in Asana, and that helps to task me then on the daily basis in my bullet journal. Did that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank
Trying
you.
to reveal how it all works. And if anyone felt like that didn't work or didn't make sense, pipe pipe up. Feel free to unmute yourself and say, "Hey, that was cuckoo bananas." Say it again a different way. Yeah. So are you using Notion to describe your projects?
So yes. I use currently I have multiple things going on. I use sometimes Notion, in which I have kind of an implementation of the getting things done methodology, where I have
Mhm.
a table that contains projects that are linked to another table that contains tasks and templates, and it's very convoluted and still not perfect. But that's the power of Notion. It's like you can do a lot, but it's if it gets too complicated, it gets a bit out of hand. And so I
Yeah.
have this going on, which
Hmm.
is nice and allows me for like long-term kind of storage. I also use my own website, the thing that I tried to make
Yeah.
a startup out of, which is for me an upside because all the tasks are linked together with little arrows on a 2D space, like on a desktop, and you can
Mhm.
really visualize the how the project evolves and how different things block each other. Um,
Yeah. Because
but
that's why I feel like with Asana, and it sounds like with Notion as well, like when it's multi-stage, there's so many layers that I can't, as you said, visualize how it all fits together. And then that's when I lean on the bullet journal.
mhm. But so, in the bullet journal, do you feel like you have a better visualization of this complex multi-layered project? And if so, how?
Yeah, in that project spread, I'm not going to say it's neat, but I'll hash out what I think the steps are and the pieces that go in, and then kind of store long-term steps as well. For example, I've been working on a book, as you know, and there's some steps that are many months and maybe even a year in the future that I know I want to be involved. And I know that by having it in my bullet journal under the project section, um, I have to migrate that every several months. It takes me about 3 to 4 months to get through a bullet journal. So it stays top of mind and I'm not losing it. I would lose it if it was in Asana. But it does end up a little bit messy. I'm not going to lie. And I'm okay with that. I think we have to decide where a mess serves us and where it doesn't.
It's funny to me because when the bullet journal, when I started using it a lot, this is when I started thinking, okay, this is just there's humongous lists of things to do, all the
Mm.
tasks interconnected and things that have to be done before one another, and this is at the point where I was like, okay, I need some other tool to visualize, and so
Mhm.
I'm kind of curious to deep dive on how you do your bullet journal, even more after maybe
I'm happy
another
to.
day, because if you can, if yeah, I want to see your mess.
Yeah, and I'm happy to. So we're past the half hour. So
Mhm.
anyone who is in attendance live, if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions, you're more than welcome to. So we're gonna like keep chit-chatting, but I will watch, and if I see you unmute yourself, I'll make sure we come to a natural pause and call on you, because we are here to also help you specifically with your own systems. Um, that's the benefit of attending live, right? Yeah, so I actually have a lot of my clients transition to bullet journaling, not because I think it's the only system, but because a lot of my clients are similar to me where we need that tangibility of paper. So I'll have a lot of people just really get curious and want to do it. Um, yeah, so I don't want to hold up and reveal everything because some things are not publicly known yet about my company. But typically, the bullet journal is supposed to be very neat and very linear. And especially for projects, I kind of let go of that. And I allow myself to just kind of dump and draw arrows and make it all. I actually, come to think of it, let me see. The bullet journal course actually was brainstormed in this notebook. And now that course is out, so I don't mind showing it. Um, Here's the projects. So this is, as I showed you, this is what the course ended up looking like, which is very nice and neat and organized, very linear and straight. Um, the, the original course looked more like this, which is still not too bad, um, but a little bit more ideas being jotted and just kind of brain dumping onto the page in order to get clear as to what it is and what needs to be involved. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's like really messy that I can show you. Um, I just allow, there's a point at which we have to allow ourselves to just be a mess in order to think everything out.
When I was using the bullet journal, there was this thing that someone said that was the goal. I mean, okay, so there's a lot of different people that are using the bullet journals. Obviously,
Oh yeah,
for some people, it's a work of art, and for some people, it's like a brain dump.
yeah,
And someone said, um, this is a tool. Remember, this is a tool. Use it as it best fits you. And there's the cool thing about it is just a book with paper in it. You can do whatever you want. And
right.
the one that I remembered was like, don't hesitate to take a blank page and think through something. Make a diagram of what you're thinking of, or extend an idea. And
Yeah,
this power of like the whiteboard kind of. Well, this is just a blank page, and we can arrive to a if you want to use a calendar on the digital world, you can. You have a Google Calendar or something. If you want to do like a table, okay, you have like Excel or something. But it's always, you have to go to the tool, you have to know how to use it. With the
hmm
beauty of paper is like, oh, you think of something, bam, new page. It's
down
always
it
in the best.
goes.
And 5 seconds, you have your table, you have your calendar, you have your whatever.
Exactly. I'm trying to find, I have like a whole graph that I copied down. I don't know which journal it was in though. Um, but I've got some blank pages because I meant to do something and I didn't. Here, like what's my mentor was telling me about the Gann's probability matrix, and so I just took a note on that. There's a coffee stain. Yeah, here I was documenting the circle of fifths and understanding how majors and minors work together in music. So like it doesn't have to be perfect or pretty. You can do like, I have art journaled a bit in my bullet journals, and that's fine. For me, that's about self-care and mental space, allowing myself to use my bullet journal as a play space in addition to a workspace to document my life. I actually have in my other bullet journal several emails. For example, when I got my acceptance letter from my agent, she was effusive, and I want to remember that for the rest of my life. And so instead of just like saving the email, which like to me that just it's not going to work out. I'm going to forget about it. So I printed it out and pasted it and like put pretty pictures around it in order to preserve it for myself and kind of for posterity. I don't know who's going to care, but you know.
Yeah, it dips a little bit into the reflective power of it's like all this gratitude journaling. That this is one, and you mentioned it as one of the things where having it
to brain dump, or as you said, a whiteboard. My desk actually doubles as a chalkboard.
nice.
So whatever it is that you're using to brain dump, awesome. But especially as an entrepreneur, if you have a team, then you do need to get that digitized somehow. And so that we can scan the images in, but it's probably not going to be as effective as putting it in a system that can add deadlines and notes. Sometimes I will do both. Say I've got a big brainstorm and I need my assistant to know all of it. I'll put it into Asana, but I still create a task and maybe a few subtasks and set deadlines so that it makes sure that she stays on track and meets expectations, you know? So that's the marriage to me of like the digital versus the physical. Yeah.
I've been longing for a very long time to a more efficient way to get this physical feeling in digital. Like we're getting there with like kind of tablets and pens, but there's not. It's not harmonious yet with the tasking systems. With how amazing would it be like if you have your device here and you make a rectangle and you write the task just with your hand, and but it's instantly in your system.
Yeah. I think the closest we come is some sort of marriage with Evernote. But even still, like you said, it's not quite it seems like it should be intuitive. Like if it like you said, like create the box. So you have a checkbox, that's a very clear indicator. And then if you write a date next to it, the system should at this point, especially with AI and machine learning, we should be able to instantly have that be part of a wider system. But yeah, it doesn't unless somebody here knows something that we don't, I don't know of a system that's that integrated at this time. Seems like Apple would have something like that. I don't like writing
Well,
on Apple tablets though. I don't like writing on glass.
okay.
I have a remarkable tablet. It's a textured plastic, so
Mm.
it feels like you're writing on paper.
I, I don't know if that's. I mean, this is getting really off topic, but they have screen protectors that feel
Ah,
textured.
yeah, I know they do. Now they do. I do like the remarkable that it doesn't have apps. There's no apps. It's a PDF, e-reader, note taker, sketch pad. It's as close to paper as you get. It's e-ink. So there's no display light. And so again, like to bring it back around to tasking, I do know some people who will use something like that in order to bullet journal or to task and keep their lists. And when you are in the middle of a brain dump, like I don't know about you, but if I get interrupted in the middle of a brain dump, it goes away. And so to have something that's not going to ping and beep and send me notifications is really important. And so the paper takes care of that. The Remarkable, I'm pointing right here because it's actually here. There's no notifications. It's connected to the internet. It's connected to the cloud, but just for storage, not for anything else.
Yeah, so talking about the brain dump part, what I use and I've been using is a combination of. So I use one of this device. I use my phone usually, but sometimes it's my Mac or something for the brain dump part often. And the way why it works, I think, is because when I do is this. I mean, before I would just like maybe turn off Wi-Fi, get all notifications off, and now it's they have this have this like focus modes that there's skip all notifications, but that's not important. The idea is just no notifications, and then there's like these tools like drafts, notes. Evernote, I think, does that very well also.
Yeah.
And like there where you can just write something. And it maybe I don't know if you have some already in your toolbox somewhere. One of these like this software that are like very good at getting information out, and that's it. Which is one of the maybe most cool thing about the getting things done actually methodology is that they tell you, okay, you have your very, very distinct places, not a lot, where you have put your information out. So bullet journal doubles, but like maybe you have one note thing, maybe you have your mails, and I have this kind of thing. So this is my
your inbox.
physical inbox, exactly.
Yeah,
and then you
my
have
email inbox is actually my inbox. So
yeah?
I will email myself things and then have to process it. Yeah.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, as long as it's like
about
a fixed
capturing
amount
it
of space,
somehow.
it's capturing,
Yeah. Because again, if we are holding it in our heads, then we are using precious brain nuggets in order to hold that instead of continue being creative or relax if it's the end of the day. Like we don't have to be working all the time. I know that might shock some people, but so we're rounding on 10 minutes. Just a reminder that if you all have any questions or want to troubleshoot something of your own, take yourself off mute and I'll call on you. But yeah, so really, I think the major underscores are externalize somehow, digital or physical, whatever. But then build trust in yourself by reviewing the externalized ideas and tasks on some regular basis, whether it's daily or weekly. You and I both do daily.
It's so I do different, like I do the process step of the GTD methodology, which means go over your buckets, go over your mails, go over your notes, go over your physical stuff on the daily.
Yeah.
But there are things that I only do on the weekly, and something like weekly would be the reflection step, and then looking at the someday maybe list would be maybe every month or something. But yeah, like building habits around it is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. And then, this isn't just about tasking because we just said, it's ideas. Ideas go into more of a someday maybe list. Someday maybe list. Or projects. These are bigger things. They're not just tasks. And so if you feel like your system isn't allowing you that freedom, create that freedom. Because what's more important is that you trust your system enough to use it. These principles that the getting things done methodology and the bullet journal methodology, they're systems for capturing and managing your tasks. You don't have to use those particular methodologies. The point is to have a methodology. Again, use the third pillar of business, or the second pillar of business scaling, to systemize and process your work so that you trust yourself. So your present self trusts your future self. So when you task your future self, you're not still holding it all in your head because you trust your future self to find the task.
And it's all about trial and error as well. Like, I don't know anyone that uses exactly the GTD methodology or exactly the bullet journal methodology. There's things that work for you, and there's no way to know until we try it.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I use a blend of bullet journal and GTD, and then also that digital system piece too is part of my review process. And so that's why I created the course I did, because I have this like marriage of things that I found work really well for the needs of an entrepreneur, because I think I would love personally to be all physical, but it's not possible, especially with a team. And especially like this, for example, right? So like in order for us to have this event tonight, it had to be on a mutual calendar. I mean, I guess it didn't have to, but then there's a lot of extra trust that you'll remember, you'll show up, that we have the right links for everything. There's so many pieces that happen when you have a married calendar, especially like overseas. So like Etienne, you and I are in the same time zone. Not everyone is. And so the technology is doing it for us, the calculations for us. And so that's, again, another digital system that, for me, my Google Calendar does task me, because I go through it every day. I put down what I have as my meetings. And then if I need to take action on a meeting before, like I need to be prepared beforehand, then now I've seen it and now I make sure I take action. But it's a digital system. So there's got to be that marriage, I think, for entrepreneurs. I think we can't get away from having a blended system. If you want paper, I think you're going to have digital too, my opinion. Etienne, will you promise us that if you do develop further your task manager in a more public-facing way, that you will please come back and share it with us? Because I think we would all love to see it.
Absolutely. Actually, there's like, technically it is live.
Yeah?
Technically, and so I think I'll just I had put the login and sign up buttons in a hidden way, but the URLs are working. The platform is live, and yeah, sure there are bugs, and but it is something I use at least 2-3 days a week. So yeah, absolutely, I will maybe give the links to you so that you can post it wherever, and add the
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and link it in the main room. And I'm going to also do a review of what we've discussed in the main room after this meeting, this workshop, this hangout, whatever we're doing, chat. Because I know we've spun through a lot of things, and I'm thankful for everyone who's been here the whole time. But if you missed something or you weren't sure what we were talking about, I've got you. I'll do a recap. And in the replay as well, there will be links in the description of that too. So we've got you covered. Etienne, is there anything that you want to leave us with? Any final words of wisdom, resources, ideas?
Yeah, there is one interesting thing with tasking, is that that I've been suffering from myself, and I know a lot of people are, especially when you start to get into reading the Getting Things Done methodology and like deep diving into tasking, is that sometimes you're getting so obsessed with how that you lose the what, And so I think one of the most important lessons that I've learned through this startup building experience is do. But I mean, probably everyone knows that here, because everyone is on the startup path. But yeah, the system is a tool, and it's great. But what's important is get out, do things, and make progress.
Take action.
Take action.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely, I think that's great advice. It's so easy to get stuck in the weeds. And oftentimes when we fixate on the how or the what, we start to use that as a crutch, especially if there's anxiety involved, like we're about to take a big step. It's really easy to just start blaming a list that's not working. I just want to focus on this because this is safe. And so if you can let that go and get into action, action begets more action in my experience. So if I take a baby step, that starts to build momentum, and then I start to get going further. And then all of a sudden you're doing big things. Yeah, good advice. Thank you so much for being with us. That this hour flew by so fast.
True.
So thanks a lot. And Etienne is, a member here, so you're welcome to tag him whenever you need him. So yeah, I'll pop these links in the main chat in a few minutes. But thanks everyone for listening in to another workshop. Next month, we have a special guest to talk about time management. So we only just scratched the surface this time about time management. But I know for me personally, time management it's been a journey. It has been a whole journey of figuring out how the heck do I manage my time as an entrepreneur when there's no boss telling me what to do. And so she's going to help us really think about time management in a whole new way, and I'm really excited about it. So it will be I think it's third Wednesday of the month is when these workshops are. You can sign up now in the upper left-hand corner when we head out of here, and you'll get a reminder, of course, in the main room later on next month. So that's it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night. Thanks to coming to our lovely soiree, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you, Etienne. And now I have to remember ending the chat.
Craig is still looking at us.
Yeah. Oh dear.